what do you think the main thing they would come to Hive for would be? Like, are they coming here because they want to, buy HBD and stake it in their account? Are they coming here because they want to create blog posts? Or is there some other reason? And again, there's going to be a lot of subgroups, but just pick the one that you're most inclined to think is the best target audience. What is that action, like the key action we're trying to get them to,
Mhm.
sign into Hive to do?
Yeah, I would say overall, I mean, just looking at it from kind of a value perspective, what's the highest value generation for the network, and what does people mostly use crypto for anyway? It's DeFi, and we've seen recently, especially things like Thorchain and Maya Protocol, that cross-chain DeFi is incredibly important and incredibly valuable. So building the tools to do that on Hive is very critical and important. Like being able to do the wrap Bitcoin, wrapping Litecoin even, wrapping many different tokens onto Hive and being able to trade within Hive means that our ecosystem is extremely valuable. This allows those people to do those same kind of things that Thorchain and other chains are doing, but do it better, do it faster, cheaper, do it with more tokens, do it more secure. Give them a lot of flexibility with what we're trying to build, so that those people can say, oh, this is interesting, this might be a good alternative, oh, there might be good rates here that we can buy tokens on. And that ultimately gets the eyes of those people who are very crypto centric, or like, I'm gonna go to this next token and get the best airdrop from them, get all the tokens from the airdrop, or go to this token and wrap all of my tokens here, and do whatever all those people like to do. Though that raises eyebrows because we have something that is valuable to them, and bringing those people on and seeing what they want and what kind of things they need as a trader, really allows us to build those tools around that. And of course, there's things that are like SocialFi aspects where blog posts are important, content creation is important. All that's definitely important, but there's also still a lot of value in just like providing good cross-chain experience, and not just providing a good experience, but also providing good UIs in that. A lot of the UIs currently around crypto are focused mainly on trading, but there's less of like UIs that are focused around lay people. So some of the work that we're doing for VSC is building actually a really good front end that is just meant for, I want to have some tokens and I want to mallet manage it in an account, and I can do some basic things like uh, filtering and sorting and doing very basic analytics on what I have, but not a lot of like advanced tooling. But that means that we could bring people who are not crypto savvy into the ecosystem, and they could hold some HBD and stake it and then get some reward from that. They don't have to know all this technical jargon about trading and trading interfaces. They just need to go onto the site, log in with their social wallet or UVM, and then now they can get some HBDs and start staking with that and earning rewards from that over time. Um, so that's a really key important thing, is that we also want to make it accessible to all kinds of groups of people, the traders, the people who are just wanting to invest in crypto, and then everything else that falls under that, like people doing SocialFi, NFTs, writing contracts, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that idea. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time in the DeFi space, and you mentioned, Thorchain and Maya, and I've been an investor and user of Thorchain since pretty much they launched. So I'm a huge proponent of cross-chain DeFi and DeFi in general. I think there's a lot of very interesting use cases, and Hive, like you said, really makes things easy to use and cheap to use. And I mean, I think all of us kind of like scratch our heads and our brains kind of explode when we see other people out there in the crypto space, especially the ones who complain about, paying very high fees to do things on Ethereum and whatnot. And we're like screaming from the rooftops about Hive. Um, you know, a mixture of frustration, anger, and trying to actually help people. Talking about how there's free transactions and 3-second block times, and it's definitely a difficult challenge to solve. And I'm really excited to see how you're tackling that, because what you're doing, and I think this is where we can kind of get into how you seeded the idea of VSC. But what you're really doing is trying to bring the DeFi features onto the Hive blockchain, as opposed to telling people, hey, ditch your blockchain and come to our blockchain. And I think that that's a really good approach. So how did you kind of come up with the idea of VSC? And let's just talk about, like, from the ideation phase to the initial, kind of start of development. How did that idea come about? And, is that how you would describe what you're trying to do, which is, bring not only DeFi, but just bring more crypto centric features onto the Hive blockchain?
Yeah, and that's a perfect explanation, or perfect characterization. And when I really first started working on BSC, it kind of started out as just like, how can I build a smart contract protocol? Like what actually are smart contracts? How does it work? what does it actually look like when you do that? And so I thought about it for a while and I started experimenting with some code. And then it kind of dawned on me around early 2023 that Hive currently has a huge lacking point, which is smart contracts. Um, there is, Hive engine that has tokens, but you can't even deploy your own token. You have to pay a bunch of money for that. You can't even customize it. So it's not really contracts. It's just tokens. And overall, like that's a really lacking part of our ecosystem. Pretty much everyone who is coming in externally at conferences, at events, are looking at, okay, how can we actually use Hive? And then they look and they see, okay, we can do this documentation. The documentation maybe not that good. Oh, I also need token features, but I'm not really sure how to do that. And then the conversation pretty much ends at that. 90% of conversations end at that, with maybe some people still kind of interested after that point. And that's really not good. We're wasting time on marketing. We're wasting time talking to people. We're wasting time shouting from the rooftops. And we're obviously not hitting that crowd of people. And what I realized is that it doesn't matter how cheap your blockchain is, right? If your blockchain costs zero, it doesn't really matter if it doesn't meet the same things that other chains do, like EVM. So EVM will always be the predominant source, unless we can offer something that does the same thing as EVM but better. So like our contracts, for example, allow you to program in any language. You can program in a JavaScript-like language. You can program in Rust. You can program in a whole number of languages that support WebAssembly. That's a lot better than Solidity. And that's certainly something that people will take a look at when they're first getting into the smart contract development. How easy it is for me to actually write a contract. And if it's in a language they already know, then it's substantially easier than writing a new one. And if it's in a blockchain, if they could use the current blockchain identities in the way that they already know, then it's a lot easier for you to onboard them. So really, since we don't even have that, it's very hard for us to say, okay, why don't you look at Hive? Because there isn't something they could use that meets their needs. Well, as soon as we meet their needs, the whole game changes, because that means they can actually use the product, they can see how it works, see how fast it works, see how inexpensive it is. And that's a whole different conversation once you get to that point where you're meeting them at like, here is what we've built that's exactly what you want, but better.